There are certain opportunities where you want a mustache, but not for this look. Alright everyone, so let's get started. Now for today's video, I am going to be trying out a couple of new items, and I'm also going to be showing you how to create a very editorial graphic liner neutral makeup look. And this makeup look is really inspired by Grim Fairy Faces. If you're not following her on Instagram, oh my god, her content, her makeup looks and her photography is just amazing. And I saw this makeup look and I died over that inner corner. So that's my inspiration today. So if you are not following her on Instagram, you should definitely follow her because her work is amazing. So I'm going to be showing you the new palettes from Yves Rocher. So they sent me the whole collection, the whole new collection. I was lucky enough to be able to create like a small tutorial video for them for their Canada conventions, because you know I used to work at Yves Rocher. I worked at Yves Rocher for almost 8 years. I stopped working for them maybe last year, and my old boss reached out and she wanted me to create 3 mini tutorials using these palettes. So I did try these out, and you'll have to see my opinion throughout the video on these palettes, because if you've seen my first Yves Rocher reviewing videos, you know that I was never really a fan of their eyeshadow because like their mattes are not the best. Their shimmers though, their shimmers are beautiful, so pigmented, really buttery, very easy to apply. So we have the palette called Landre, which is the most like colorful palette out of these 4 palettes. You have really nice shades, you have blues, you have shimmers, you also have mattes, so you have a really nice variety of textures and colors in this palette. We also have the palette called Landre Ambré, which is the most beautiful neutral palette. This purpley shade is calling my name. And then you also have 2 mini palettes. So you have the Granite Noir palette, which is very smoky and perfect for night out looks. And we also have the mini Granite Rose palette, which is a smaller, more wearable palette. In today's video, I think I'm mainly going to be using this one right here, which is the bigger neutral palette, because today's makeup look is going to be a little bit more on the neutral side. But don't get me wrong, we are going to have a pop of editorial graphic liner thrown in the makeup look, so don't worry. And I'm also going to be trying these products right here. This is the brand called Kohl, and I really like this brand. Some of the products are a hit, some of them are not hits. So when I went at the pharmacy and I saw the foundation and concealer, I just had to try it because on my channel I've been using like the same foundation and concealer for like my past 100 videos, so I kind of want to try something different today. I really hope these shades are right for me. So I think I spoke enough. I'm going to start doing my makeup now. So first of all, I'm going to be priming my lids using my MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. I love this primer. It really covers all my veins, and it also allows eyeshadow to really stick nicely on the lid. But this primer is not too thick, so it's not going to like be too heavy on the lids. And I'm just going to dab that primer all over my lid from my inner to my outer corner. And today I really want to make sure that my whole lid area is well primed, including my lower lash line. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go in the Yves Rocher palette, and I'll be grabbing the light brown shade with my JH40 brush, which is a small packing brush. So I'm going to start and pack this on my outer corner. So using this shade, I'm going to create a very long winged liner, and I'm going to keep the shape very rounded, so I'm not going to make it into a point. And as you can see, I'm keeping that very, very rounded. And I'm also going to drag some of that shade on my lower lash line. And I'm slowly going to start and blend the edges, doing very small circular motions. So far, I will have to say this shade is blending quite nicely. And then I'm going to take a fluffy brush with nothing on it. This is a Lavish blender brush. And I'm just going to go over everything and try to blend these edges and smoke everything out even more. And then I'm taking a little bit more of that brown shade and packing it on top. And I'm also going to start and bring that towards the center of my lash line. And as you're seeing, I'm also taking that very far towards my brow. And then going back in with the fluffy brush, I'm going to blend things out. Okay, I'm kind of really impressed so far with this shade. It's applying quite nicely and it's not patching up. And then I'm going to take that same shade with my JH42 brush, which is an even smaller packing brush. And I'm going to start and pack that on my lash line going towards my inner corners. But I'm going to stop halfway towards my inner corners from the center of my eye. I don't want that shade to go on my inner corners. And I also want to mention, I did say that I worked for Yves Rocher for many years, but it doesn't stop me from being honest and telling you what's good and what's not. So now I think I'm going to deepen this shape up even more by going into the deep brown shade. Now this is the moment of truth. We'll see if these shadows are buildable or not. So I'm just going to take that with the same JH42 brush and I'm going to be dabbing that shade very tightly on my lash line. Okay, that's really impressive. I'm just going to go back in with the fluffy brush and blend that brown shade out. And with my JH42 brush, I'm just going to grab some more of that brown and pack that very tightly to my lash line and on my lower lash line. Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of patchiness right here. Like this shadow is not really wanting to stick there, not sure why, but it doesn't really matter because I am going to end up removing most of this shadow afterwards because I'm planning on doing a negative space within the shadow on the outer corner, but it kind of sucks. Like I don't know what's going on there and it's kind of annoying me. And that's pretty much the problem I used to have with Yves Rocher shadows. I'm just going to take more of that light brown shade on my lavish fluffy brush and I'm just going to blend that all over this shadow just because I feel like I need more smokiness. I'm probably going to say this at the end of the video, but Yves Rocher eyeshadows are the best for everyday makeup looks. They're not the best for editorial, pigmented, amazing eyeshadow looks. Like it started really nicely until I tried to layer these shades and then it just doesn't work. Alright, so I think this is the best I can do. I've been blending for way too long now. So I think I'm just going to move on. So next I'm going to apply some eyeshadow in my inner corners, in my inner crease. So with a very small precise brush, I'm going to grab that light brown shade and I'm just going to create kind of a small cut crease in my inner corners, but I'm not going to take it all the way on the outer corner. It's going to stop in the center of the eye. And with more of the brown, light brown shade with my JH42 brush, I'm just going to intensify that shade in my inner crease. And I'm just going to lightly blend that upwards. I think it'll be best if I use a fluffier brush for the blending. Like you see, it's blending really nicely. Like on its own and not layered, it applies beautifully. When you try to build the shade up with other shadows, it just doesn't work. And then with the small detailed brush and the deep brown shade, I'm going to apply that in the very crease of my eye. And going back in with my JH42 brush and no extra pigment on the brush, I'm just going to do small tapping motions on top of that brown shade. And now with a flat brush and the concealer from Kohl, I'm kind of scared to use this to clean things up because I never tried this concealer before, but let's use it. So I'm going to take some of that concealer on the back of my hand. It looks really light. And I'm just going to carve my inner corners out. This concealer is bright, very bright. Next, I'm going to go in the center shade from that palette using another very small precise brush. And I'm going to be placing that on top of where we just applied the concealer, right under the brown eyeshadow in the inner corners. I just want to add some texture to this makeup look. Oh yeah, that shade is really bright. Oh, the shimmers from Yves Rocher are really good. So next, for the fun part, I'm going to be taking my Rare Beauty eyeliner. So what I'm first going to do, I'm going to sketch my inner corners out, but I'm going to leave the center of the eye empty. So I'm just going to extend my inner corners just a bit. And instead of doing a point in my inner corners, I'm going to do a little circle. And I am going to bring that towards the upper lash line, but I want to keep the lines super thin. Now I'm going to do kind of the same shape but on the outer corner and more long. So I'm going to take that line, following the shape of the shadow we created, and I'm going to bring it back into a U shape towards my lower lash line. And also you really want to concentrate on perfecting the line, but on the outer part of the line, because we are going to remove with a Q-tip everything inside the line. And I also want the outer corner to be the thicker part of the liner. Alright, so now this is the fun part where we get the Q-tip and the micellar water and we remove some eyeshadow. So I am going to do my little trick where I remove some of the swab from the Q-tip, just so that we have a much more precise Q-tip. I'm going to soak the Q-tip in my micellar water. And you really need to remove the excess micellar water on the back of the hand before applying it on the eye, because if you don't, all the excess micellar water is going to run on your shadow and it's just going to ruin everything. So I'm just going to remove everything inside of the liner. And I'm also taking the opportunity to clean some of the lines. And I'm just going to go back in to reapply some of the liner. I do find that the line right here might be a little bit too thin. And I'm going to grab some more of my concealer with my flat brush and I'm going to apply that in the negative space. Alright, so here we go for this makeup look. I'm kind of obsessed. It's really interesting. So I'm just going to apply some mascara really quickly. I'm going to be using the They're Real Magnet mascara from Benefit. This mascara is amazing. It's really good. If you want either natural or crazy lashes, you can do both effect with this mascara. I'm also going to take some white kohl liner. This is the NYX kohl liner. And I'm going to place that in my waterline. And with a black kohl liner this time, I'm going to place that in my inner corners in the waterline, just to make that area more deep. Next, I'll just remove some of the fallout because there are a lot of fallout. Alright, so like usual, I have no idea what's going on, but these does not look symmetrical. It's fine, don't worry about it. Alright, so now let's get started on the complexion. I'm so excited for these products. I'm going to be taking my Rare Beauty Illuminating Primer. I've been using this for a long time. I really like it. It gives a really nice dewy look to the skin, but the texture is very lightweight and it allows any foundation to glide really nicely on the skin. And I'm using this one because I am going to be trying a new foundation, so I want to make sure that I have a base that I know works well with the foundations I already tried. So I'm just going to take some of that and massage this all over my face. And you'll see this gives such a nice shine to the skin. And now for the foundation, this is the Kohl Beauty Liquid Foundation. This is supposed to have a 8-hour wear, and I'm really hoping this is the right shade for me. This is the shade called Ivory C2, and I'm going to take some of that on the back of my hand, and this feels really liquidy. I'm going to dab a little bit of this all over my face, and with a foundation brush that I know that I love, I'm going to be blending this foundation into the skin. Actually, this shade is a really good match. I'm being very silent right now while applying this foundation because I think I like it. I like the texture. It's very lightweight. And the coverage, I would say, is medium. I do feel like this foundation right now is oxidizing, so it's getting a little bit more yellow. Let me see, I'm going to reapply some of that on the back of my hand right next to the foundation we already had. Is this lighter than this? I feel like this is a little bit more yellow than this, so I do think this might oxidize. So if you are interested in this foundation, I would say maybe go a shade lighter, but it's still a really good match for me. I'm really not mad. I prefer dewy foundations, but this foundation so far, the texture is quite interesting. I feel like it's more matte or maybe more of a satin finish. The primer, the Illuminating primer, definitely helped with a more dewy effect. So I feel like if you were to apply this foundation on top of a moisturizer, it would probably be very matte looking. So I'm going to take the concealer next. This is in the shade Shell C0, and it's a really light concealer. I feel like I took a concealer shade a little bit too light for me, but I'll make it work. So I'm just going to take some of that under my eye. Oh yeah, that's really light. And why not take some of that where I want to enhance the structure of my face, because it's really light, so I feel like it would work nice as a highlight type of thing. And I'm going to work quickly because I think this dries really quickly. So I'm just going to take my foundation brush and buff this into the skin. Okay, so yeah, this concealer dries really quickly, so you should definitely apply then blend right away, because when I got to my cheeks, I did get some difficulty trying to blend it. The texture of this concealer is definitely also more on the mattifying side. The texture is also quite lightweight, so it's not too heavy on the skin, and it did cover up my under eyes and some of my redness quite nicely. So I am liking this so far, but I definitely feel that if I did not apply that hydrating primer, my skin would have looked really dry. For my bronzer, I think I want to use this. This is the Rare Beauty bronzer stick in the shade Power Boost, and I'm going to take that with a fluffy brush, and I'm just going to pack that on the perimeter of my face very lightly, just to give some warmth back to my skin. And then for my blush, why not? I'm going to be taking the kohl cheek and lip multi-stick in the shade Desire. And I tried this product in my first impression video and I freaking loved it. This stick is beautiful as a lipstick on the cheeks. It applies really, really beautifully. So I'm going to grab some of that on a dual fiber brush, and I'll just dab that on the high points of my cheeks. Are you seeing this? This blush is so pretty. I definitely went overboard, but I love it. For my highlight, I'll be taking the Rare Beauty Liquid Luminizer in the shade Enlighten. I'm going to take some of that on the back of my hand, and I'll take that with this brush right here. This is a Sephora brush. You can take any small tapered brush you have. And I'm just going to place that on the high points of my cheeks. And this highlight is also pretty, so beautiful. It applies on top of any texture, on creams, on powders. It's just such a forgiving liquid highlight, and the shine it gives is so natural and so shiny. If you haven't tried these highlights from Rare Beauty, you should definitely give them a try because they're one of my favorites. And I'm going to take what's left on the brush and apply that on top of my brow and also on my brow bone. And also right here on my nose bridge, I guess. Okay, so next I'll fill in my brows, and I'm going to fill them like I do on an everyday basis. So I'm going to start by filling my brows in using the Precisely My Brow pencil in the shade number 3. And now I'll be taking the Yves Rocher eyebrow mascara in the shade Transparent. And this brow mascara is really, really good. It's not super glue like the 24-hour brow setter, but it's much more forgiving and a little bit more natural. I use this every single day. So I'm just going to be taking that in front of the brow. I'm going to fluff the brow hairs up, but only in the front. And then I'm just going to even out the hairs on the top of the brow just so that they're not too spiky. And then using the Gimme Brow and I'm going to place that on the very tail of my brow because I have very few hairs in the tail of my brows. My brows are looking very filled. I love it. So next I'll be working on my lips. So I'm going to be taking the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil in the shade Endless Cacao. And I'm going to be using this to line up my lips and give a much fuller effect to my lips. And I'm going to do that by applying the liner on the perimeter of the lips and blending it outwards. So I've applied some of that under my lip, and with my finger I'm just going to blend this out. Same for my upper lip. But the upper lip I'm not going to blend as much as the lower lip because it's just going to look like I have a mustache and I don't really want that. There are certain opportunities where you want a mustache, but not for this look. And for my lipstick, I'll be using the Rosewater Kosas lipstick. And I'm going to apply that in the center of my lips. This is the most beautiful peach pink shade ever. It's so pretty. And because I do feel like it's a little bit too pink, I'm going to take the blush we used on our cheeks and I'm just going to apply that in the center. And for my gloss, I think I might regret this, but I really want to try this. This is the Fenty Beauty lip gloss in the shade Ruby Milk, and I'm going to place that on top, but just a little bit. I just want to see what this looks like. Okay, I'm not sure if I like this lip shade. I think it might be a little bit too pink, but I'm going to let it seep into my head and maybe I'm going to like it more. But this gloss is super juicy and I really like it. It's very, very shiny. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for today's makeup look. Let me just say right now, I'm obsessed with my complexion right now. My complexion looks flawless, beautiful, like natural. It does feel just a tad dry. I do feel like this foundation might be a little bit too heavy for my preferences. For more coverage and a more matte foundation, this is beautiful. I love it. It applied beautifully. It's very, very lightweight. The concealer also, like the concealer was kind of scared because it looked really light, but it did blend into the skin quite nicely. You do have to work with it really quickly because it does dry really fast. But yeah, so far I'm very impressed with the foundation and the concealer. Now for the moment of truth, these palettes. So the shimmers, look at that. That shimmer in my inner corners, beautiful, amazing, shiny, everything I would ask for. The mattes, I would say use the mattes from Yves Rocher for more natural everyday makeup looks, because if you want to pack them on and if you want to make them very bright and very intense, you're going to have difficulty trying to get that effect because they're not super buildable, but they're still really pretty. But yeah, maybe not for editorial intense colorful makeup looks, but I'm probably going to be reaching for these palettes on a regular basis if I just want to throw some shadow on my lid, in my crease, a little bit of shimmer, a little bit of definition on the lash line. But yeah, so I will have to approve these, but maybe not for intense editorial makeup looks. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for today's video. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever tried Yves Rocher eyeshadow. I'm really curious to get your opinion about these shadows. Maybe I could be using them wrong. Maybe I should be using a different kind of primer. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like. You can also subscribe to my channel. I put up new videos every single Mondays, so subscribe so that you don't miss any of the makeup Mondays. And that's it. So thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one.